Well, it might feel like paradise on the PGA Tour this week, but the conditions with the weather and the wind might say a little different at the Butterfield Bermuda Championship at Port Royal Golf Course. What do you got to know about this place to pick some winners, pick some good prop bets this week on the PGA Tour? That is what we're going to do here on the Golfbet Roundtable. Chris Brees, Will Gray, Paul Hodawanek. Paul, you made the joke that watching this tournament just makes you feel so uncomfortable this week, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, they ask you to hit some interesting shots. It's usually incredibly windy. Hopefully we get the same. It's always fun to watch these guys battle conditions and like a very cool, quirky golf course that's unlike ones that we see on tour, sandwiched like right at the end of the fall where guys are trying to either keep their cards, play their way in. So eclectic group of winners. It's just there's a lot going on with this tournament that make it kind of a sneaky fun watch late into the fall.
So we're taping this on Tuesday, and I am sad that this is not an official round in Bermuda because the winds are blowing to 40 miles an hour today, and on the shortest golf course in the PGA Tour, that would make for some fun watching. I do think if the forecast is to be believed, the winds are going to be up. That's really the only defense at Port Royal, and it does make for some compelling viewership. You got some great sight lines there along the ocean, but everyone loves seeing 150 yard 6-iron or a 200 yard pitching wedge. And I think we might get a few of those this week in Bermuda.
So we're going to talk about all those stats, the course conditions, what's the weather going to be like, even if it's better tomorrow, is it worse on Thursday? Let's take a look at this field, you guys. We've got some new guys really at the top here. Nico Echeverria seems like he's been the fall staple. I'm curious to see if Rico Hoey is still going to be high on Will's list. Kevin Hughes up there. Thorbjorn Olesen. Will, what's your thought initially on these top odds?
Absolutely thunderstruck by Rico Hoey, betting favorite. We've come a long way, even during the FedEx Cup fall. Welcome all other Rico Hoey bandwagon participants. He's putting up the numbers. The second place in Utah sticks out. I'm not sure that I trust him south of 20-1 to win. But of this group, honestly, first of all, there's a great story with Michael Brennan. I know, Paul, you talked about this on the 5 this week of just his glow up over the last month. But Nico Echeverria also sticks out to me as someone who at least has won twice on the PGA Tour, so that might count for something this week.
Yeah, Michael Brennan having the 6th best odds despite failing to Monday qualify for this event when they held the Monday qualifier about a month ago. He didn't have any tour status at that point, so tried to go play the Monday, finished I think 3 shots out of qualification, and then somehow in the last month he wins, and you look up and he's the top ranked player in the field. Quite incredible to see Rico Hoey as the betting favorite. But I mean, just if you look at a strokes gained perspective and just results based, like he might be the best player this fall. I mean, he hasn't won, but just in terms of what he's doing week in and week out, it's basically him and Garrick Higo 1-2 there. And so Hoey a deserved favorite, which I'm not sure I would have ever said, 2 months ago when the fall started, but it's what happens in golf, man.
I mean, we talked with Rico Hoey that all he needs with that broomstick putter is to be a decent putter, and then the ball striking chops will take care of it. Honestly, this could be a week where that even gets more credence because if the wind does blow, there's going to be a little extra emphasis on the tee to green game. This is a course where by nature it takes driver out of your hand, so that's another factor to lean harder on the irons and wedges. But we have come a long way for sure to have Rico Hoey top of the betting markets where you're looking.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at just the last couple winners, Rafa Campos, Camilo, Seamus Power, Brian Gay, Brendan Todd, like these are not your long ball hitters. So really kind of reins in that distance, reins in Michael Brennan's advantage, reins in some of these guys that just can really pump it. So it's who can control their distances, their flights in the wind that feel like are really going to thrive here.
Rico's been going low, Brennan's been going low, and these guys are going to need to continue to go low if they want to win, because look at how great the winners have been at this course at Port Royal. You want to talk about, of all the 24 rounds since 2019 that the winners have played at this event, 65 or better, rounds of 65 or better have happened 13 times for the winner. It is in the top 4 of number of rounds of 65 or better from a winner. And get this, guys, I'll raise you one more. Of those 24 rounds, all 24 rounds by the winners since 2019 have been under par. That's happened at a total of 10 events on the PGA Tour. So what gives here, Will? Because we're talking all about this wind. If it's 25, 30 miles an hour, yet these guys are still shooting 65?
Well, I think they're shooting 65 on the calm day. If you look back to last year, Rafa Campos you basically didn't even need a putter. He had 21 putts during the third round when he shot a 62. So if you have one of those low rounds, it's going to get you a long way towards the finish line. But I do think that this is a setup where on a calm day, maybe a 65 is essentially the score you need to keep pace with the field. Whereas when the wind does blow, maybe a 68 or a 69 is more the target total on this par 71 layout. I think we're going to look more toward door number 2. I think that maybe you're going to have to get past 10 under, but maybe not up to 15, I would say, kind of in that 10-15 range. Could be a good target depending on how much the gusts do come through based on the forecast. But this is a course where, again, it's not that the top defense is the wind. The only defense is the wind. So on those calm days, these guys can absolutely tear this place apart. I don't know that we're going to have any truly calm day this week, Paul, which for me makes for some good viewing and interesting watching, but I'm sure makes it a little more difficult when you're actually got the club in the hand and putting the ball in the peg.
Yeah, not the longest course, as you said, one of the shortest, and then not a lot of rough, like thickness-wise around the greens. Like, really, it doesn't matter how much the wind's going to blow. Like, these guys are going to score on it. It does mean like guys are going to have to get creative and hit shots that are being rewarded. So I think there's still that balance of it's not like it's so easy to make birdies that people can hit mediocre shots. They're small greens with the wind going. But with how short the course is, it's just a lot of shorter clubs in guys' hands to really take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to hit upon. That, as we were talking about before, everyone is going to basically have driver out of hand. So if you're one of the longer hitters this week, your advantage is essentially mitigated. And so it's not only irons. I would look at the maybe 175 and in for your approach play, whether it's wedges or short to mid irons, because those clubs are going to be hit with some frequency into, Paul, as you mentioned, some of the smallest greens on the PGA Tour. It makes sense. You've got a coastal course there. It's a short layout in general, but these are some tiny targets. There's not a ton of trouble in and around the greens, but you got to be able to flight your ball, especially if the wind kicks up.
All right, let's figure out how we can pick some winners here and make some bets. If you're not really interested in picking these guys as favorites, you mentioned if you think Rico Hoey's too short. Paul's got something for us here, Paul. Give us this best bet, this parlay that you're working on here.
Yeah, I think I found this on DraftKings. Just the top 10 finish parlay, Hoey and Pearson Coody. If you go look by the numbers, those are the two best strokes gain guys over the last 5 starts in the field. Both have played remarkably well. Both really good ball strikers. Rico Hoey second on tour behind only Scotty Scheffler. Strokes gained tee to green. So when we talk about someone who's going to be able to survive in any condition, I think Hoey would be one that stands up. Greens will be rolling a little bit slower. Could be helping him even a little bit there as well. Then Pearson Coody, I believe, is like 3rd or 4th on tour in birdie average this year. So if we talk about going low, guys that are just going to fill up the stat sheet, Coody's a guy that can run very hot and cold. We saw in his rookie season, it was a little bit more cold than hot. That's why he dropped back down to the Korn Ferry Tour. But he's been quietly incredibly impressive. He played 15 Korn Ferry Tour events and just easily regained his card, finished, I think, 10th on the Korn Ferry Tour points list. He's actually could sneak into the top 100 of the FedEx Cup, which doesn't really matter because he's already gained his card through the Korn Ferry Tour. Like, he's not sweating it out like these other guys that are trying to crack the top 100, but still remarkable that playing basically half on KFT, half on the PGA Tour, that he might find himself also inside the top 100. I think that speaks to the talent. He's rounding into form. He's had 2 top 15s, both at the Sanderson and then I think at T3 at the Bank of Utah Championship. So playing well, feels like an ideal fit for this course. Both their numbers were just higher than I would want to take for someone who has never proven themselves to win on the PGA Tour, but I like them to continue to play well and finish in the top 10. So yeah, I like that number for them to just both be in the top 10.
Yeah, 3 straight top 15 finishes for Pearson Coody before a T31 finish last week, which is essentially his worst result of the fall. When a T31 is your worst result, that's a good sign for where your game is at this time of year. I do wonder, we talk often on the show about the mentality of being a first-time defending champ when you go back to the event and you're doing all the media and stuff like that. Is there going to be that effect for Rico Hoey as the guy, right? He's the betting favorite this week. He's in a bigger spotlight than he usually is, or that he even has been at the last few fall events as he's continued to ascend in form and as that putter has continued to cooperate. And we've talked more about those ball striking comps that put him behind only Scotty Scheffler. So that's a question mark for me on that side of how he handles this dynamic of being kind of the top dog in a pretty wide open week. But I do think, as you mentioned, what Cootie has done balancing KFT and PGA Tour might be a little underrated, especially if he is able to crack the top 100 by the end of RSM next week.
So, Will, is this the week to rip off the Band-Aid on David Ford? What's going on here?
He's finding his footing. Listen, we're not getting too aggressive here. We're talking top 20, but there's always that adjustment period, or at least there has been for the few years we've had these PGA Tour you guys that have come out, and he has basically had a free roll this summer, knowing he has his full card for next year. And it was a little bit of a rocky start, missed a few cuts, but he played well a couple weeks ago, and now has 3 straight finishes where he's at least seen the weekend and is starting to put together some solid play. So we're looking again in a 120-man field, plus 320 for a top 20 on David Ford, someone with a lot of promise coming out of North Carolina, that you understand that it takes an adjustment period. You got to get a feel for what life is like on the PGA Tour, but I'm seeing some signs that this might be an opportunity to buy in early on a rising prospect, and especially this week on this style of course and what you need with flighting your ball and all that stuff. I think Ford is an interesting option.
And just on Ford, he hasn't played enough rounds to be in the PGA Tour's like official stats system at this point. If he were, he'd be just behind Scotty Scheffler in third, I think, strokes gained off the tee. And that's not coming from distance. He's averaging less than 300 yards at drive. That's coming from hitting 78% of his fairways. I think helps that we've played a couple wide courses recently, thinking back to Mexico last week, but that would also lead the PGA Tour in accuracy. So a very accurate driver off the tee, whether that's a driver, 3-wood, anything. So when you talk about guys just putting themselves in positions to make a lot of birdies, Ford feels like someone that should fit that bill.
Off the tee, though, there is harder to think of a more yin and yang setup than going from Utah and Mexico to now Port Royal. So we're definitely squeezing in a little bit. Yeah. Suck it in and see how you fare in the wind in Bermuda.
Well, that's a good segue to what's basically, Will, our Golfbet consensus pick. I went conservative on Justin Lower. You mentioned Utah. He's T3 there, and this guy's game seems like it's been carrying everywhere. He has been so good in Bermuda. I believe his worst finish here in his 4 seasons is T20. He's playing well enough right now. Different conditions I don't think matters for him for how well he's striking the ball. And this is a plus 280 top 20 for me that I'm looking at. And our whole thing with Will and me is I'm always conservative with my pick. You're more bullish. Top 10 is what, 6-1?
Yeah, plus 600. Let's go. Let's gamble a little bit here, Chris Breeze. I mean, I think that if he's going to play as well as he has, not only over the last couple of weeks, but over the last, as you mentioned, 4 years at Bermuda, he has finished no worse than T20, and the other 3 were top 10s, T5, T7, and T8, I believe. So this is a place where he is on the fringe of contention, if not better, with some great regularity. And I would even look back to last week in Mexico was another course where he has played well before. And when he was right there, 336 holes, kind of faded a little bit over the weekend to finish outside the top 30. But Paul, there's a lot to like right now from the Justin Lower camp as someone that was trying to find his form and seems to have found it in a big way over the last couple weeks, and now is heading to one of his favorite spots on the entire PGA Tour rotor.
Yeah, I was pretty bullish on Lauer just kind of coming into the season. It felt like over the last 5 or so years, he was just building continuous improvement. I was there when he qualified for the U.S. Open a couple of years ago on the longest day in golf. Really emotional. He's played in a lot of these high-pressure moments before. I thought that would continue. He regressed a little bit this season, but it's good to see him playing well again. 108th in the FedEx Cup Fall, so he's right on that bubble, kind of needing a good week or two to kind of spark him. So obviously top 10, top 20 would really help him get that way. And it does feel like, I mean, this is anecdotal just from the tournaments I've been at and what I've seen from him. He's a guy that kind of rises to that. I think we're seeing that this fall. So just given his past course history, even if he wasn't playing that well, I think anytime you're getting basic 3-1 odds when he's just continually finished in the top 20 for the last few years, like that feels like a value in and of itself. Even if he wasn't playing well, the fact that he, was T3 at Bank of Utah would only, make me more excited about this bet.
No stranger to the bubble. Even you go back to, Korn Ferry Tour when he was trying to get his card on the PGA Tour, always felt like he was around that top 25 cutoff each year at the KFT finals. So you're right. He's got plenty of experience with this particular dynamic, but between this week at Bermuda and next week at RSM, he's going to have to put one on the board to crack that top 100 and keep his full status for 26.
All these guys can play as well as they want throughout a week. What's really going to matter if they're going to win, like these recent winners have done in Bermuda, they're going to need to be super clutch on the weekend. Ready for this stat? The Butterfield Bermuda is second on tour in comebacks of 4 or more strokes going into the weekend since it came here in 2019. Only the 3M Open has more bigger comebacks, and look at the difference of the winners in round 3 and round 4 compared to the field, Paul. We're looking at almost 4.5 strokes on the third round that they're gaining on the field, and almost 4 strokes in the fourth round. So these winners are clutch when it matters most, and you got to wonder, are the guys we're picking clutch enough on the weekend? Because we haven't seen a whole lot from these guys.
Yeah, this isn't a field with a ton of former PGA Tour winners. One of the reasons one of my outrights was actually Matt Kuchar, a lot of experience, low ball hitter, maybe we've seen him get it done in times like this. Yeah, that stat is interesting. Like, I mean, I think anytime the winner is, they're obviously playing well, have peak weeks, so you're going to expect them to outperform the field on the weekend. Some of that could be wave related to the weather early in the week, kind of stifling them. They come back. But yeah, I mean, it's a proving ground, but also this tournament has been won by a lot of guys that hadn't won before. Rafa Campos was nails coming down the stretch last year, and that's not exactly, given how he had played in the lead up and just over the course of his career, a guy you would have said that too. So it's the time of year where these guys really have to buckle down and show something they haven't shown before.
I was going to say, I mean, you just showed the 1-2 punch of Camilo and Rafa Campos. There's a lot of unpredictability here in a short time frame of the Bermuda Championship, even going back to like Brian Gay winning one of the first years and Brendan Todd as well. So a little bit of you take it with a grain of salt how much the predictive factors are going to play out, but it is an interesting trend, Chris, as you mentioned, of guys going out. We're going to have split tees and threesomes on Saturday and Sunday, so there's an opportunity to have a little bit more compressed wave than you would maybe in a summer event where you've got twosomes off of one tee. And so it does kind of lend itself towards a situation where guys can move up in a hurry, only playing 45 minutes or an hour behind the leaders on Saturday or potentially on Sunday. And all of a sudden you're looking up at a name on the leaderboard that you didn't even know was there an hour ago. And that's the name you're trying to chase.
Oh, Paul mentioned it. Let's pick some winners here. 40-1 for Matt Kuchar.
Yeah, I was stoked to see this. I think the last time I was on Roundtable in the fall, I picked like Matt Kuchar for a top 20 at Napa. That one hit, mostly because he's been living inside the top 20 this fall, playing incredibly well. I said Rico Hoey and Pearson Coody were the top 2 strokes gain guys in this field over this fall season. Matt Kuchar's number 3. I mean, he's T11 in his last start, T18 before that, T13 before that. He had a T5 even before that. So playing a lot better golf. And I think it's kind of remarkable that Kuchar's trying to keep his card. Like, he hasn't lost his card since he gained it, I believe, in 2007. He's just stayed there, has really not had to battle it either. I mean, he was really, really good for a couple years there. And even in these later years, has always kind of not had to sweat it out. So the fact that he's outside looking in right now, I'm just excited about the way he's playing. This feels like the type of courses we've talked about that would fit him really well. And yeah, 40-1 when pretty much everyone ahead of him is unproven. Like, give me Cooch. Let's see if we can turn back the clock, keep our card for another year or two. Like, I'm excited about this one, guys.
There's definitely a scenario where you could envision a board on Sunday where you're like, I don't know about that guy. I don't know about that guy. When Kuchar's T8 is 4 shots off the lead, it might take a little sprinkle on the outright, because you're right. He is someone that I feel like you would trust coming down the stretch, given his track record and his ability to close. You look at some of his most recent wins, which are still a few years back, but you look at Sony Open and a coastal course. He's won in Mexico on some of those coastal Paspalum greens and stuff like that. So there are some fits in terms of the course setup and style that you're going to have in Bermuda, and he's another guy that is probably going to relish an opportunity to not have to be playing in a deficit off the tee like he has the last couple of weeks, where everyone's just bombing driver left, right, and center.
Okay, well, I thought about taking your winner. I didn't do it. What do you like about Semi Valimaki?
I mean, the guy is trending in the right direction. Listen, I'm not sure how much I like it at 3,300 if we get Matt Kuchar at 4,000. But listen, the fin is coming to play, and I do think that, again, the ball striking is there. He's a guy that is negative or pretty far down the list in strokes gained off the tee, but he is really solid. Top 20 strokes gained approach on tour this season. Top 20 strokes gained putting. That is a combination that I'm willing to invest in this week as he looks for his first win. He got a T2 in 2 of his last 5 worldwide starts, to include the DP World Tour. So a couple of near misses as he's trying to trend towards a breakthrough win on the PGA Tour. But this is a week again. It's pretty wide open. If you got Rico Hoey not only as the betting favorite, but as a 18 to 20 to 1 betting favorite, that tells me odds makers don't really know quite what to make of the top 10% of this tournament field. And so I think that Sami Välimäki is someone that could put together a really strong run, just playing to his strengths, which, as we're seeing here, a lot of close iron approaches, make a few putts. You don't have to worry about the misses off the tee that have been costing him at other events.
And I think I just looked it up. He's 74th on tour in driving accuracy, which is just right around middle of the pack. So it's mostly because he's not averaging over 300 yards of drive that his numbers have fallen down there a little bit. But as we've talked about ad nauseum already, like, you don't need to hit it that far here. So he feels like in the mold of some of the other guys we've seen win here recently, that could take advantage of just kind of the course setup and use it to parlay it into, a major week.
Honestly, the other stat that does not come into a factor for me very often, but is definitely a factor this week, is apex height. Sami Välimäki is 90th on tour in how high you hit the ball, essentially. So that's below the mean, but that's a good thing this week, because I do think you have to flight the ball pretty well. One of the long shots on my card is Adam Svensson, who is next to last in just how high his usual iron and driver flight goes. So again, on a week where the wind is expected to be a factor, on a tight course where you're not necessarily hitting a ton of drivers, being able to get creative with your shot flight and your shot type, I think is going to be very important. And so I give a little bit extra credence towards the guys that I know consistently can flight it low. And maybe someone like that I looked at was the other Svensson, Jesper Svensson, who hits it a mile and hits it high. I don't think that's going to play as well this week as it has the last two PGA Tour events.
Your winner and my winner basically have the same odds, and I'm just wondering, guys, if at this moment in the fall, at this course, is Vince Whaley due? You can even forget about the whole first-time winner narrative in the fall. He has come so close at this course in specific. He is clearly comfortable playing in the wind here. Finishes of T5, T7, and T8 here. This is a player, Will, who has not missed a cut since early April. Ball striking consistency is big this week, and I'm thinking Vince Whaley can do it.
I appreciate your confidence in throwing the ball to me. I'm going to send it over to Paul because he uttered the phrase, I went down a Vince Whaley rabbit hole earlier today in the office. So I just want to tee him up and see where this goes.
I mean, I was just looking for value, man. And the Vince Whaley, no, I saw it, but I saw also, if you check out the Expert Picks article, Vince Whaley was a popular candidate. I'm trying to spread out what we're doing here. We're not trying to all jump on the same plays. So yeah, I mean, he both was playing well this year, and then obviously has the course history here. Reese, I'm excited that you think his time is coming. I didn't know a lot of people were clamoring for when Vince Whaley's time was coming, so I'm glad.
They now think they are.
Plant the flag. Plant the flag.
Yeah, you're now the foremost Vince Whaley guy, which I feel like is a lot of upside, minimal downside at this point, because I don't think people will remember it. But if you're right, wow, you were right. But yeah, this feels like a good week if you're going to jump on the Vince Whaley bandwagon, to jump on it this week. Because yeah, course history good, playing well recently. Honestly, I was a little shocked at how high he is in some of the values, given just his history. But it's that number for a reason. Like, obviously the odds makers are seeing what we're seeing in terms of playing well. I liked some of those top 10, even top 5 numbers a little bit more than the outright, as I'm just wondering if he can get it done, if he has what it takes. But I like you going out on a limb and saying it's going to happen.
You hear that doubt, Chris? He's trying to pivot you to top 5, top 10.
It's
Stay the course. You're the guy. You just plant the flag. When Whaley lifts the trophy, it's all coming back home to you.
If I'm right, you guys can call me the king of the round table. If I'm wrong, you guys can kick me off the show.
We'll still do it next week, with or without you.
Yeah.